Now I'm going to demonstrate how to create some text for rhinestones in a template that not only includes an outline of the rhinestones around the text itself, but also a fill of rhinestones. So this is if you want to create a word or text completely full of rhinestones, and the inside of the wording as well as the outside. So to start off, I have just some Greek letters here, and I'm going to do the basic outline first. First I need to find out what my rhinestone size should be. So I'm going to go to where I had purchased the rhinestones and go to their technical sheet, their application instructions, and find out what size hole I should be making within my graphic program, which is CorelDRAW X5 that I'm using. So I'm going to be using rhinestones, the size 16, the SS16 size. So here it tells me that I need to make my hole size 4.3 millimeters. So now that I know that information, I can go ahead and start making my design. First, I want to change how I'm viewing this. I'm going to get rid of the fill color of this text here, so I can work by line so I can truly see what's going on. And I'm just going to right click on a different color so I can just see an outline of my text. And then I'm going to make a hole size. I'm just going to draw a circle. I'm just going to hold my control key on my keyboard and click and drag my circle, and it'll make a perfect circle. And then within the size, I'm going to just type in what it said to do, which was 4.3 millimeters, and hit enter on my keyboard, and it's going to convert, because right now I have my Corel set to inches. So instead of converting back my unit of measurement from inches to millimeters, if you just type in mm, it will go ahead and do that for you. So now it has converted it to a 4.3 millimeter circle, and I'm just going to start my basic steps of creating a rhinestone template around my design. I'm just going to click my circle, drag, right click my mouse. It's going to create a duplicate. I'm going to select my blend tool, click and drag from one circle to the other, and then I'm going to tell my path properties that I want these circles to follow along a new path, which is this ZTA. And then I want to tell my more blend options to blend along the full path. And now I can control how many blended objects I want. I'm going to guess 200 to see how that looks. I'm going to change it to 175 to see how that looks. What I'm doing is looking for just a little bit of distance between the circles. I don't want a ton of distance, because if your distance between your circles, when you cut your rhinestone template, it will create like a little lip around it, and your stone could technically like butt up against that lip and it wouldn't fall into place properly, so your production could be slowed down a little bit. We are going to have to fine tune this anyways, so I'm going to demonstrate that in this tutorial. I could break down each segment if I wanted to and create stones along the holes along the path precisely from corner to corner, but since we're just filling this in anyways, it's just going to look really sparkly, and we picked a nice bold font, so they're going to be able to tell what it says. Alright, so now that I have my stones along the path of the ZTA, then I can go ahead and start creating the fill. And I'm just going to do this the easiest way that I feel. There may be easier ways out there, but this is the way that I feel is the easiest way to do it. So I'm just going to start another circle, hold my control key down, click and drag my mouse, and it will make a perfect circle. Let go of your mouse before your control key to make a perfect circle. And then I'm going to change my size, 4.3 mm, enter on my keyboard, and it converts it for me. Then I'm going to turn on my step and repeat. So that's found under edit. If you go to step and repeat, and now I can start telling the program to make so many objects along a horizontal or vertical path. So I'm going to do a horizontal path only. So I'm going to turn this off. I want to turn off my vertical setting to no offset. And I want my horizontal, wanted it to be similar to what this spacing is in between from the amount of objects that I chose. So to figure that out, I'm just going to view this in wireframe real quick so I can truly see the lines without any fill or without any line width assigned to it. And I'm just going to draw an object. You don't have to be precise, but you know, just want to be similar. And I'm going to figure, okay, so the distance between there is actually 0.115. So I want to be kind of similar to that, so I'm going to use that as my guide. Now I can tell the spacing between the objects, I want it to be close to that same size, so 0.115. And I'm going to guess 50 across. Hit apply, and the Corel will automatically generate 50 circles at the distance of 0.115. So now I want to do about the same, but down. So I'm going to turn off my horizontal centering, turn on my vertical. I want to say the spacing between the object is going to be 0.118. But I actually only want one line, and I'm going to explain why in just a minute. And I want my distance to be, again, 0.115, and hit apply, and it's going to create another line underneath there. Just kind of go down here a little bit so you can see. Okay, so now I have exactly the same circles, another row underneath it. But I don't want my row to be like right on top of each other. I want them to be kind of staggered off. So I'm going to select just that new row that I just created, and I'm going to start to move it so they're in a staggered pattern, because it's more eye-catching that way. Plus you have a better chance of filling up the area more completely that way. And I'm just kind of guesstimating, because you're going to end up maneuvering these anyways, because not everything falls directly in place when you're dealing with little tiny circles like this. So now, instead of using my step and repeat to create additional lines offset of each other, I'm just going to select both of these lines and then just guesstimate by clicking and dragging my mouse down. You can hold your control key if you like, so you have more control over all these objects moving at one time. But I'm just going to drag them down and then right click my mouse, and it's going to create a duplicate. Control R, and it's going to continue on that repeat. It's just Control R is just going to keep repeating the last step that you made. So I'm continuously making a whole area full of these circles that are 4.3 with, you know, spacing in between that's pretty consistent. So now I want to select all of these circles and make them one object, because I want to end up intersecting, which is capturing only the circles inside of an object. So to do that all at once, I have to make sure they're not grouped together, they're not all separate objects. Grouping and combining is different. Combining is making all of these single objects one object, where grouping is just making a bunch of different objects grouped on the page so you can move them around at the same time. So it's a different meaning. So I need to combine those to make my intersect option a lot easier and quicker. So now I have my ZTA, and I'm going to go back to view this in normal view, because I was in wireframe, so I could really see, you know, truly just the vector line without any point value assigned to my line width. But I want to see where these stones will fill in the ZTA to get my best estimate of, you know, where I should intersect these stones. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag it down on top. And I assigned the stones and the line a different color. It might be helpful if you just right click on a different color on your color palette, so both the circles that you had blended along the path and the line itself, the original shape, are the same colors, so you can determine which stones will be filling in and which ones will be going around the design. And you don't have to be perfect. You're just looking for, you know, the majority of the stones to fill in Obviously this is not going to be, you know, dead on. We're going to have to maneuver some of these, but this is the quickest way to hand make this without having to buy a program specifically that has fonts with fills in it at different sizes. So if you already have Corel and you want to start doing this without buying an additional program, then you're able to. So now I have a good guesstimate of where my circles are going to end up being on the path. So I want to select just the line of the ZTA only. And I'm going to be able to tell if I have just that line selected by my status bar at the bottom of Corel. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so I have a better visual. Select my selection tool, and I'm just trying to select just the line of the text. And I can tell that I have just the text selected because my status bar here at the bottom of Corel tells me I have controlled text. I happen to have Stahls Mega Greek font installed in this computer. So that is the font that is telling me that I have selected, and not actually the group of all the objects on a path. So what I can do now is just make a duplicate or copy of that. I'm just going to hit Control C and then Control V on my keyboard, and that is going to make a copy of just my ZTA lines, just the text itself. So now I can select the circle, the original one that I dragged down here by just selecting my one of those pink circles, or the original circles on a path. And I can tell that I have those selected because my status bar will change and tell me that I have a blend on a path group on layer 1. So now I can drag those up out of the way. And then this is where, you know, I have the leftover, just the text showing me where where the circles filled in the best. So now I want to intersect all of the circles. I just want to capture only the circles that are falling inside of the text itself. So as you can see, I just want to select just the text. So it says artistic text is selected. Hold my shift key down and select the object that I want to capture within that text. So I can select any one of those circles because I combined them. They're considered all the same object anyways. And at the top here you have all of your shortcut options. You have your weld, you have your trim, and then you have your intersect, which is the third one over here. So I want to select intersect, and that duplicates only the circles that are within the original object I first selected, which was the text. So now technically I can just click on any one of these outside circles and just delete them to get them off my screen. So I've captured only what's in the inside. Now to get those circles inside of the ZTA, the one above it, all I need to do is just select one of them and I can just drag it up and roughly put them into place. Might be off a little bit, might have to maneuver here and there a little bit. And then this I just used as a guideline, this ZTA down here, so I just hit delete and get rid of it. So now I can start zooming in here and cleaning it up. So it looks like I might need to move over a little bit. So now I need to break up all of these objects because they're all connected, and I'm going to have to move them around because they don't fit perfectly in place. Some of them are overlapping, and you don't want your cutter to cut that because then the template isn't going to work out when you go to brush your stones in there. So I just want to go to Arrange and Break Curve Apart. And that's going to take all those circles that were filled in, and they're now all individual objects. So I can select just the circle itself and maneuver it around, make a duplicate of it, whatever I need to do to fill in the font. All these circles that are along the path also need to be broken away from the original text. and then they need to be ungrouped. So you go back up to arrange and ungroup, or ungroup all actually. So technically now all of these circles are their own individual circles. So now I can get down to business and start cleaning up parts of circles that didn't fall into place right, move them around if I have to. Just go along and get rid of any duplicates or anything that doesn't belong. These have to be full circles, so anything that was cut off is worthless, because if it's not a full circle, the stone's not going to fall into place, and it's not going to be a perfect circle for the stone to fall into place in the first place. So let's say here, you know, I have an area that I can fill in. If you just drag another circle and then right click your mouse, you will make a duplicate. That's a shortcut to make a quick duplicate. You may not want to move this one over a little bit because you can fit another one here nicely. So I'm just going to drag any of the circles and then just right click. As long as you don't have a larger amount of distance between the circles, then your stone should fall into place without a problem. And it's not going to be a huge problem if your stones, you know, if the area between the circles are larger than your circle width itself. But it just makes production a lot easier. So once you're done cleaning everything up, you can get rid of your actual initial text by selecting the line and then just deleting it. And then you'll have all your circles in place. If you wanted to, you could, you know, do the outline of circles in this like hot pink color, for example. You would make a separate template and you would cut only those outlines, and then the inner fill circles you could make a different color, so you could have like a 2-color rhinestone text, for example. Each color of stones is its own layer, just like screen printing. You know, each color is its own layer, so you'd want to cut your own template for that. You would brush only that color into those stone holes and then mask it, and then you'd bring it all together on the same mask to make a multiple color rhinestone design.